So here we're going to talk about being neurospicy. So neurodivergence is the term for when someone's brain processes, learns, and/or behaves differently from what is considered typical. Formerly considered a problem or abnormal, scientists now understand that neurodivergence isn't inherently an issue for the individual and that it has a large societal benefit. Not all presentations of neurodivergence are a disability like synesthesia, but all are a difference in how the brain works. With this shift, practitioners are no longer treating neurodivergence as inherently an illness. They are instead viewing them as different methods of learning and processing information, some of which become disabilities in an inaccessible and ableist society. Yeah. So neurodiversity is a concept that there are a variety of ways that people's brains process information, function, and present behaviorally. Rather than thinking there is something wrong or problematic when some people don't operate similarly to others, neurodiversity embraces all differences. The concept of neurodiversity recognizes that both brain function and behavioral traits are simply indicators of how diverse the human population is. So, neurotypical is a descriptor that refers to someone who has the brain functions, behaviors, and processing considered standard or typical. Neurotypical people may have no idea they are because the subject has likely never come up for them before. These people usually hit all of their developmental and behavioral milestones at the same times and ages and are considered standard for most people. Once grown, they generally move through life without having to wonder if their brains function in the same way as others do. Neurodivergence is the term for people whose brains function differently in one or more ways than is considered standard or typical. There are many different ways that neurodivergence manifests, ranging from very mild ways that most people would never notice to more obvious ways that lead to a person behaving differently than is standard in our society. So here's the most common stuff. So autism is also known as spectrum disorder because autistic people range in what autistic traits they have, how these traits present, and their support needs. It previously had many subtypes such as Asperger's and pervasive developmental disorder, but now they're all classified as an autism spectrum disorder. The term Asperger's is also no longer accepted in the autistic community due to its origination from a Nazi scientist for use in the field of eugenics. Autism is a broad set of conditions that may include challenges with socializing and social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech difficulties that can lead people to communicate via alternative, augmentative communication, writing, typing, or sign language instead of verbally. According to the Autism Self-Advocacy Network, autistic people generally think, process their senses, move, communicate, and socialize in a consistent range of ways that differ from how allistic, non-autistic people do. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is an executive function dysregulation disorder, which means individuals may have difficulties managing their thoughts, attention, behaviors, and emotions. May have difficulty with organization, be restless, seem disinterested or zoned out, and show inappropriate behavior when experiencing strong emotions. Thanks to their out-of-the-box thinking, people with ADHD are often great problem solvers, may be energetic and fun, and are often sensitive to others. Dyslexia. This form of neurodivergence involves speaking, reading, and writing, typically associated with misreading, writing, or speaking words or letters out of order, but it encompasses more than that. For example, it may involve confusion with certain letters, difficulty organizing words into sentences, trouble acquiring a vocabulary or pronouncing words, and are challenges following directions. People with dyslexia are often big picture thinkers who excel at visual processing. In addition, they tend to have strong spatial awareness and may be very creative. And there's other types, include Tourette's, dyspraxia, synesthesia, dyscalculia, Down syndrome, epilepsy, and chronic mental health illnesses such as bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, borderline personality disorder, anxiety, and depression. How to know if you're neurodivergent? Well, if you got there, I'm afraid you are. So if you have been diagnosed with any of the above conditions, you would be considered neurodivergent. On the other hand, if you have never been formally diagnosed but resonate strongly with the descriptors of one or more types of neurodivergence, you might benefit from seeking a professional to find out for sure. So additionally, you can learn more about both the DSM description and the condition and the lived experiences of people with that presentation of neurodivergence. Self-diagnosis is a valid form of identification and is often the only accessible diagnostic avenue for many marginalized people. That's basically how I came across it. So, can you become neurodivergent? Many forms of neurodivergence are an innate part of how the brain develops and functions. While these differences may go unrecognized or undiagnosed in childhood, that doesn't mean they were not there and suddenly appeared in adulthood. Acquired neurological conditions such as traumatic brain injuries, strokes, and Alzheimer's disease can also lead to neurodivergence. How common is it? The exact number of people who are neurodivergent is not known, but looking at the prevalence of conditions linked to neurodivergency can indicate how common it may be. So there's enough of us. What is it like to be neurodivergent? Oh my God. We have been through things. And now we have a wasp in the house. Amazing. Thank you. There's no one answer to what it's like to be neurodivergent. There isn't even an answer to what it's like to have any kind of specific neurodivergent diagnosis. People are individual and unique. Oh, it's going to distract me now. So you can learn about it more through books, podcasts, or social media accounts. Future of neurodivergence. Society shifts the understanding of how the brain operates. The way in which we treat those who are neurodivergent will also change. For example, there is much work that has to be done. Yeah. So we got that. So yeah, being neurodivergent is like a... If you'll excuse me, I gotta let this let this guy out. Oh God. I mean, I'll think. You'll have to wait a bit, dude. Oh my God, how do I even? Darling, would you excuse me? Honey? Sweetie? No. No. No, there you go. Come on. Come on. Come on. Good little thingy. Come on. Let's let the wasp out. Which? No, boo, you gotta go out. Okay, due apologies for taking a moment. Otherwise, the poor lad would not be able to get out properly. So yeah. So being neurodivergent is quite a thing, especially if you, just like me, self-diagnose yourself later on in life and then got the professional to diagnose you later on in life, and then you discover that apparently it's not your awkward behavior or your perks, or it's just like how your friends or parents might say, like, oh, it's just like you're just being so... There's a list of things they could say, anything from stuck up to anything quite insulting. But that's actually how your brain works. And that's one of them things when you're actually... it's not like you're trying to miscommunicate. It's that when you're talking to neurotypical people, asking questions, and they find it that you asking that many questions to get the things like straight in your own brain to kind of like understand the full picture. I got to know that that's actually questioning their authority at times, which was quite quite a learning curve, to be honest. But yeah, there's a lot of things that go with it, and if like you even check at the parts how being neurodivergent looks like in men and in women, it differs. ADHD in men and in women is different. Same with the how autism shows. So kind of like something to explore if you have, you know, if you're on a spectrum anywhere. If you have like borderline or OCD, that should be definitely you know, with a professional researched and documented and, you know, put down so you know what exactly you should do, or you're like, you know, I wouldn't say step by step, but kind of like guidelines that they kind of like give you, and then you sort of like go on in life trying to kind of like understand it by yourself, because even I like to just see how online people with autism spectrum and CPTSD, how they share their stories of how they live and how they kind of like experience life with neurotypical people, and how they then understand how actually the neurotypicals think. And it's so amazing to see like the whole, you know, community online going like, oh sheesh, so that's what it was, because none of us knew about it, because it just like within our brain processing, it just does not add up. And then all of a sudden somebody kind of like explains you the thing, and you're like, oh, so that's what they meant. Because sometimes apparently we come across as very rude or insulting, whilst we're not. We're just like, we're just curious. We just want to know. And apparently that's not what's expected of us in some communities and some, you know, cultures. So that's that. But here we go. So shadow emotional healing. Why? So, and you once again get to see me here. Well, rather it's a monologue that I throw at you like a Deadpool breaking the fourth wall. So once you go into psychology, there is no way back, only deeper into the wonderland. Explore yourself, be careful, or leave that to a professional therapist. They also like to pick people's brains in a different way than zombies do, but do your research. We got some things in life we went through that we're healing from. Some things we discovered with age, some others are just too much in our face not to see. Being neurospicy or not, being traumatized or not, we still want to find ways of how, why, and what next. The whole of emotions, shadow, acceptance, healing is here to get over one big thing. The typical elephant in the room that we meet at the point of getting to see all that astrology, going through all that numerology. We reach the point of, wait a damn minute, I'm written out here like the freaking gemstone that's all nice and shiny. Why does it not match with the reality of my life? I was there too, and I met with that. I was all about how social norms, you know, how stuff, you know, your parents' work, surroundings, upbringing, norms, and other bits shaped you whilst you were younger. If you were neurodivergent, the life was even more of, this ain't making sense to why they do that. So that's why we go into our great adventures online, into figuring out what is life and how to navigate said thing. And that is when you begin the journey of learning not so healthy beliefs, expectations, stereotypes, and other bits, identifying them, taking them down, and in their place creating a new and healthy base, the kind that allows you to drop that masking and let self free. Hun, darling, you ain't got a clue how long it takes. Reprogramming your brain is a great pain in the rear. Like, there's the you in different forms, the kid, the teen, the shadow you. It is a lengthy tug of war with yourself, from compromises, to really harsh cutting off, to appreciation of oneself in a sweet, subtle manner, to learning to be open to the new things about yourself. And it so happens that there are toxic beliefs and coping mechanisms which we have to ditch, replace, and throw out. Does it take a weekend to change up? Oh no, it does not. It took my sarcastic whole 5 years, maybe even more, from the moment I began researching, realizing that I'm doing royal grade dumb to find out why and how and what. But yeah, that's all a part of self-discovery. You talk like an old granny, and I feel at times like an old granny, but one thing I do promise you as you heal, grow, change, and prosper into your best self is that you never once say dumb like, oh, I wish I could change the past, or any other kinds of same expression. You treat your past like a learning curve, like a life school with some really embarrassing, painful, hollow, happy, sad bonkers out of reality level lessons in life. And you go laugh about it and say something along the lines of, oh yeah, happened, glad it's in the past. That was quite the lesson though. But it is in the past, and frankly, you never look back. You direct your gaze up front, experiencing the now and looking, planning into future. Because you're that bish and you deserve all the best out there. Though, as you level up, as you heal, as you explore the options out there, you eventually meet the part where the roads are either spreading out in many paths ahead of you, as well as there's a whole forest field that's never been stepped on. What am I on about here? Well, when you throw out the old beliefs, the shoddy coping mechanisms, the toxic stuff, you reach the moment of, what the baboon split do I believe in now? What do I do instead? What's the meaning of life? Yeah, that is the new thing that you get to explore. What to believe in. And mind you, you get to feel vulnerable, very open, very stripped, and worried about what's in house. So from here on out, let us explore the philosophies, religions, and beliefs we can use. Mix and match if you feel like it, as long as that's within the new frame of health, common sense. We'll check out some dilemmas as well, so just so we can annoy our brain even more. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. And it's gonna be big. So, with all that's out there and being neurospicy, do try to find out what level of neurospicy you are, what works for you, what does not work for you, what are your kind of like special interests, your things you do. As long as you're safe within your environment, as long as you understand that it's kind of like as it has been in here, that it's in the past. Some stuff is in the past, yes, there might be triggers and traumas, but by now in here, you have survived, been through all 100% of your bad days, your bad situations, your horrible moments, and you're still alive. And that's, I think, the greatest present to all of us who get to experience the moment with you. So I hope it's going to be even more great from here on out. So let's get to explore some philosophies, religions, and all the rest. See you in the next one.